I raised 3 children in a modest 2-story house in Pennsylvania. Michael, my oldest, was born when I was 23. Then came Sarah 2 years later, and finally Jennifer, my baby, 3 years after that. Their father, Tom, worked construction. I worked part-time at the local library and full-time as their mother. We weren't wealthy. Tom's income was steady but modest, and my library salary barely covered groceries. But our home was filled with something money couldn't buy: warmth. Every Sunday, we had family dinner. Every birthday got homemade cake. Every skinned knee got kissed. Every report card got celebrated. Every teenage heartbreak got talked through at the kitchen table over hot chocolate. I was an involved mother. Some might say too involved. I remembered every friend's name, every teacher's quirk, every worry they confided in me. When Michael got cut from the basketball team in 8th grade, I sat with him for 3 hours while he cried. When Sarah's prom date stood her up, I took her to dinner myself, fancy dress and all. When Jennifer struggled with math, I learned algebra all over again at 45 just to help her. Tom used to joke that I had a PhD in our children. He meant it lovingly. I wore my devotion like a badge of honor. The kids grew up. College came and went. Community college for Michael, state school for Sarah, a technical program for Jennifer. They stayed local, which I loved. Sunday dinners continued. I still knew their lives, their friends, their struggles. Then the marriages happened. Michael married Amber when he was 26. She was nice enough at first, a dental hygienist with a tight smile and tighter budget. Sarah married Kevin 2 years later. He worked in IT and had opinions about everything. Jennifer, my baby, married last. She chose Derek, a sales manager with slicked back hair and a firm handshake that always felt like a test. At first, nothing changed. We still had dinners, still celebrated holidays together. I welcomed these new people into our family with open arms. I asked about their childhoods, remembered their favorite foods, bought thoughtful Christmas gifts. But I began noticing things, small things. Amber would glance at Michael when I asked too many questions about their lives. Kevin would check his phone when I told stories. Derek never quite looked me in the eye. Then Tom died. Heart attack. Sudden. He went to work on a Tuesday morning and never came home. I was 61 years old and suddenly alone in our house. The kids rallied around me at first. They helped plan the funeral, sorted through paperwork, checked on me daily. I clung to them perhaps too tightly. I called every day. I showed up at their houses with casseroles. I needed them desperately, and I wasn't ashamed of it. That lasted about 3 months. Then Michael called and asked if we could talk. He brought Amber. They sat on my couch, the same couch where I'd rocked him as a baby, and told me they needed to set some boundaries. Boundaries, I repeated, not understanding. You're calling too much, Mom, Michael said, not meeting my eyes. It's a lot. I stared at my son, trying to process his words. I call once a day, sometimes every other day. Amber leaned forward, her voice artificially gentle. It's not just the calls, Barbara. It's the dropping by unannounced. The texts checking in constantly. Michael and I are building our own life, and we need space to do that. Space. That word would haunt me. But your father just died, I said, my voice cracking. I'm struggling, and you're my family. And that's the problem, Michael said, finally looking at me. You're depending on us too much. Amber thinks, we think, you need to build your own life. Make your own friends. Maybe see a therapist. The words hit like slaps. I started crying then, which I know didn't help my case. But I couldn't stop. My husband was gone, and now my son was telling me I was too much, too needy, too emotional. See? Amber said quietly to Michael. This is what I mean. I tried to defend myself through tears. I'm sorry. I'm just grieving. I don't mean to be a burden. You're not a burden, Mom, Michael said, but his tone said otherwise. You're just intense. You always have been. We just need some breathing room. They left 20 minutes later. I sat on that couch until midnight, crying until my throat was raw. 2 weeks later, Sarah called. Could she come over? She needed to talk. I knew before she arrived. I could hear it in her voice. Sarah was more direct than Michael. She sat at my kitchen table and laid it out. Kevin and I need you to respect our independence. You text me multiple times a day. You comment on everything we do. You get upset if we make plans without telling you first. I just want to be involved in your life, I whispered. Too involved, Sarah said firmly. Kevin says it's unhealthy. He thinks you're emotionally manipulative. Manipulative. The word was a knife. How am I manipulative? When we don't call you back immediately, you send worried texts. When we can't come to Sunday dinner, you say things like, I guess I'll just eat alone then. It makes us feel guilty for living our lives. I tried to explain. I tried to tell her that I didn't mean it that way, that I was just lonely, just adjusting to life without her father. But everything I said seemed to make it worse. She used words like enmeshed and codependent, words that felt clinical and cold. Jennifer was last. She didn't even come over. She called me on a Thursday evening. Mom, Derek, and I think it's best if we take a break from regular contact. A break from your mother. What does that mean? I asked. It means we need space. You're too emotional, Mom. Every conversation becomes about you and your feelings. We can't be your therapists. I'm not asking you to be my therapist, I said, desperate now. I'm asking you to be my daughter. I am your daughter. But I'm also Derek's wife, and he comes first now. That's how marriage works. She hung up shortly after. I sat holding the phone, completely numb. The silence started slowly, then swallowed me whole. At first, I tried to respect their boundaries. I didn't call. I didn't text. I waited for them to reach out to me. Days passed, then weeks. My phone stayed silent except for spam calls and appointment reminders. I thought maybe they were testing me, seeing if I could give them space. I thought if I proved I wasn't too emotional, they'd come back. Thanksgiving approached. Surely, I thought, surely they'd want to spend Thanksgiving together. It was our holiday. I always made the turkey. Sarah brought her sweet potato casserole. Jennifer made her famous pumpkin pie. It was tradition. I called Michael first. Hi, honey. I was wondering about Thanksgiving plans. Oh, we're actually going to Amber's parents this year. My heart sank. Okay, what about Christmas? We'll see, Mom. I have to go. I called Sarah. She and Kevin were visiting his sister in Florida. Jennifer and Derek were going to a resort. Nobody was coming home. I stood in my kitchen looking at the calendar with Thanksgiving circled in red marker, and I made a decision. I would cook anyway. I would set the table. Maybe they'd change their minds. Maybe they'd surprise me. Thanksgiving morning, I woke up at 6. I prepared everything: turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, rolls, 3 kinds of pie. The house smelled like every Thanksgiving of my life. I set the table for 7, 2 spots for Michael and Amber, 2 for Sarah and Kevin, 2 for Jennifer and Derek, 1 for me. At noon, I sat down. The food steamed. The candles flickered. I stared at 6 empty chairs and ate my meal alone, tears dropping into my mashed potatoes. I couldn't throw the food away. It felt wrong, wasteful. I spent the evening packing it into containers, filling my freezer with portions meant for a family gathering. Christmas was worse. I bought presents for everyone. I wrapped them carefully, wrote thoughtful cards. I called each of my children the week before, asking if they were coming. We're really busy this year, Mom, Michael said. The timing doesn't work, Sarah said. We need to do our own thing, Jennifer said. Christmas morning, I sat next to my tree, a beautiful 7-foot spruce I decorated alone, with wrapped presents scattered underneath. None for me, all from me. I didn't open them. I left them there until February, when I finally threw them away. New Year's came and went, then Valentine's Day, then Easter. Each holiday, I set the table. Each holiday, I cooked. Each holiday, I was alone. I started talking to myself. Not in a crazy way, I don't think, but in a lonely way. I'd narrate what I was doing. Okay, Barb, time to peel the potatoes. Careful with that peeler, it's sharp. It was better than silence. The library became my sanctuary. I took extra shifts, volunteered for weekend hours. At least there, people talked to me. They might only say, "Where's the bathroom?" or "Can you help me print this?" But it was human interaction. My coworkers were kind but distant. They had their own families, their own lives. I was just the older woman who worked too much. The first year without my children was the worst. Every phone notification made my heart jump, hoping it was one of them. It never was. I tried to follow their lives from a distance. Social media became my window into the family I'd lost. I saw photos of Michael and Amber at restaurants I'd never heard of. Sarah posted pictures from family gatherings with Kevin's relatives. Jennifer shared vacation photos from beaches I'd never see. I never commented. I never liked. I just watched, like a ghost haunting my own children's lives. My neighbors probably thought I was losing it. Mrs. Patterson from next door caught me crying while watering my flowers. "Everything okay, Barb?" "Just allergies," I lied. I couldn't tell people the truth. How do you explain that your children, whom you devoted your entire life to raising, had essentially discarded you? That they diagnosed you with being too emotional and prescribed you with permanent distance? I tried to build a life like they'd suggested. I joined a book club at the library. The women were nice enough, but they all had families who called them, grandchildren who visited, busy lives that extended beyond Thursday evening discussions of novels. I tried volunteer work. I served meals at a shelter every Saturday. The gratitude from strangers felt hollow. I didn't want thanks from people I didn't know. I wanted love from the people I did. Birthdays were torture. On Michael's 35th birthday, I sent a card. Nothing extravagant, just "Happy birthday, honey, love, Mom." I never heard if he received it. The next year, I sent nothing. What was the point? Sarah had a baby when I was 64, a little girl named Madison. I found out from Facebook. She didn't call to tell me. She posted photos from the hospital. Kevin's parents holding the baby, Amber cooing over her, Jennifer standing proudly beside her sister. I had a granddaughter, and I'd learned about it through a screen. I sent a gift, a handmade baby blanket I'd crocheted. I spent 3 months on it, every stitch a prayer that maybe this baby would bridge the gap. Sarah sent a text 3 weeks later. "Thanks for the blanket." That was it. No photo of Madison wrapped in it, no invitation to meet her, just "thanks for the blanket." I wasn't invited to the baptism. I saw photos of that too. Both families represented, except mine, except me. I stopped setting the table after the 3rd year. I stopped cooking elaborate meals. Most nights, I ate soup straight from the can, standing at the kitchen counter. Why dirty dishes for one person? The house that once rang with laughter and chaos became a mausoleum. Rooms I used to clean constantly gathered dust. I stopped going into the bedrooms upstairs. Their childhood rooms, frozen in time, were too painful. I got thinner. Not intentionally, just the natural result of not caring much about eating. My doctor noticed during my annual checkup. "Barbara, you've lost 20 pounds. Is everything all right?" "I'm fine," I said. Another lie. I was getting good at those. "Are you eating properly? Do you have someone checking on you?" I almost laughed. Someone checking on me. What a concept. "I'm managing just fine," I told her. 4 years into my exile, something unexpected happened. I received a letter from a law firm in Pittsburgh, Henderson and Associates. I almost threw it away, assuming it was junk mail or a scam. But something made me open it. It was about a class action lawsuit. Years ago, when Tom was still alive, he'd worked for Morrison Steel Manufacturing. The letter explained that Morrison had been illegally withholding pension funds and proper compensation from workers for over 2 decades. A massive lawsuit had been filed, and Tom's estate was entitled to compensation. I had to read it 3 times before it made sense. Tom had been dead for almost 5 years. How could he be owed money now? I called the number on the letterhead. A paralegal named Susan explained it all. Morrison had systematically cheated their workers, and the courts had finally held them accountable. Tom had worked there for 32 years. Based on his tenure and the wages he should have been paid, his estate was owed significant back pay plus interest, plus penalty damages. How significant? I asked. I can't give you exact numbers yet, but based on preliminary calculations, you should expect somewhere between $800,000 and $1.2 million. I nearly dropped the phone. Mrs. Barrett, are you there? That can't be right, I whispered. It's right. The settlement is substantial. Morrison fought for years, but the evidence was overwhelming. We'll need you to come in and sign some paperwork, verify Tom's employment history, but this is legitimate. I hung up in a daze. Nearly $1 million, maybe more. For weeks, I didn't tell anyone. Who would I tell? I had no one to share the news with. The paralegal's words echoed, "You should celebrate with family." Family. Right. The legal process took months. Paperwork, verification, court appearances. Susan walked me through everything. She was kind, professional, patient with my questions. Finally, on a Tuesday in October, the money transferred into my account, $1,047,612. I sat at my computer, staring at my bank balance. 7 digits. I'd never seen 7 digits in my account before. I could do anything. Travel, move, buy a new house. I'd spent my entire life scraping by, working part-time, stretching Tom's paycheck, clipping coupons, and now, suddenly, I was wealthy. The first thing I did was cry. Not tears of joy, exactly, but something more complicated. This money was Tom's. He'd earned it by breaking his back for 32 years, and he never got to see a penny of it. He died thinking we'd always be struggling, never knowing that Morrison had been stealing from us. I thought about what he would want me to do with it. Tom was a simple man. He'd probably say to be practical, pay off the house, save most of it, enjoy life a little. But sitting there alone in our house, looking at that number, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. For 4 years, I'd been powerless. I couldn't make my children love me. I couldn't force them to call. I couldn't buy their affection or presence. But now I had something they didn't know about, something that, when they eventually found out, would matter to them. I didn't know exactly how yet, but that money was going to change everything. I kept the settlement quiet. I didn't change my lifestyle dramatically. I paid off my mortgage. That felt good, necessary. I put money aside for emergencies and future expenses. I donated some to the library and the shelter where I volunteered, but mostly I just sat with the knowledge of it. The money felt like a shield, protecting me from something I couldn't quite name yet. 6 months after the settlement, my phone rang. Michael's name appeared on the screen for the first time in 18 months. My hand shook as I answered. Hello? Hey, Mom. His voice was casual, like we just talked yesterday. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? Good, good. Listen, Amber and I were talking, and we realized it's been way too long since we've connected. We feel bad about that. Feel bad. Not are sorry, not apologize. Feel bad. We'd love to take you to dinner this weekend. Catch up. What do you think? I should have been overjoyed. My son was reaching out, but something felt off. His tone was wrong. Too cheerful, too performative. That would be nice, I said carefully. We made plans for Saturday. After we hung up, I sat staring at the phone. Why now? Why after all this time? Dinner was at a mid-range restaurant, the kind with checkered tablecloths and oversized menus. Michael and Amber were already seated when I arrived. Amber hugged me stiffly. Barbara, you look great. Have you lost weight? We ordered. They talked about their lives. Michael's new position at work, Amber's sister's wedding, their plans to renovate their kitchen. I listened, contributing little, waiting. Then Michael cleared his throat. So, Mom, we actually wanted to talk to you about something. Here it was. We've been thinking about family, about how important it is, and we feel like we pushed you away when we should have been supporting you through Dad's death. That wasn't fair. They'd rehearsed this. I could hear it in the careful words, the measured delivery. We want to rebuild our relationship, Amber added, reaching across the table to pat my hand. Family should stick together. What changed? I asked quietly. They looked at each other. What do you mean? Michael asked. 4.5 years. You told me I was too emotional, that you needed space. I gave you space. Now suddenly you want to rebuild. What changed? Michael shifted in his seat. Nothing changed. We grew up, I guess. Matured. Realized what matters. Did Sarah or Jennifer put you up to this? What? No. Why would you? Because I haven't heard from them either in years, and I'm wondering if there's a reason you're all suddenly interested in family again. Amber's smile tightened. Barbara, we're trying to extend an olive branch here. I think you're being a little paranoid. I didn't push further that night. We finished dinner with strained small talk. They promised to call more, to visit. I smiled and nodded and didn't believe them. 2 weeks later, Sarah called. Could we have lunch? 1 week after that, Jennifer sent a text asking if she could stop by. Within a month, all 3 of my children had made contact, all wanting to reconnect, all suddenly interested in healing our relationship. I wasn't stupid. Somehow, they'd found out about the money. I never told anyone about the settlement. But small towns talk, and lawyers gossip, and somehow word spreads. I suspect someone at Henderson and Associates mentioned it to someone who mentioned it to someone else. And eventually it reached Kevin's sister, who worked in legal administration in Pittsburgh. However they found out, they knew. And it changed everything. The invitations started flowing. Sunday dinners at Michael's house, game night at Sarah's, coffee dates with Jennifer. Suddenly, I was welcome again. Suddenly, I wasn't too emotional. I accepted every invitation. I needed to see this play out. The first Sunday dinner at Michael's house was surreal. Amber had cooked a pot roast. She fussed over me, offered me the best seat, asked repeatedly if I needed anything. I'm so glad we're doing this, she said, squeezing my hand. Family dinners are so important. I don't know why we ever stopped. I could have reminded her. I didn't. Over dinner, they asked about my life. How was I managing? Was the house too big for one person? Had I thought about downsizing? The house is fine, I said. I paid off the mortgage recently. Their eyes lit up. Michael leaned forward. Really? That's great, Mom. How'd you manage that? I came into some money. Tom's old employer owed him back pay. Settlement from a lawsuit. A settlement? Amber's voice was a little too interested. That's wonderful. You must be so relieved. It's been helpful, I said neutrally. The questions came carefully, casually. How much was it? What were my plans? Had I thought about investing it? Did I have a financial advisor? I kept my answers vague, enough to confirm I had money, not enough to reveal how much. At Sarah's house the following week, the conversation took a different turn. Kevin brought up retirement planning. At your age, Barbara, you really should have professional help managing your assets. I have a guy I could introduce you to. That's kind, but I'm fine. With all due respect, you worked at a library. Financial management probably isn't your strong suit. A settlement like that could disappear fast without proper guidance. Madison, my granddaughter, played nearby. She was 3 years old now. I'd met her twice. She didn't know who I was. I'd love to spend more time with Madison, I said, changing the subject. Sarah brightened. We'd love that too. Maybe you could babysit sometimes. We could really use the help. Help? Not spend time with your granddaughter? Help. Jennifer's approach was the most direct. She came to my house, the first time any of them had visited in years, and brought Derek. Mom, Derek, and I are thinking about buying a house. A real house, not our rental. But the down payment is really steep, especially with interest rates where they are. She didn't ask directly. She just left it hanging there, waiting for me to offer. That sounds exciting, I said. I hope you find something perfect. Her face fell slightly. The thing is, we're just a little short, like 40,000 short. Derek added, we'd pay you back, obviously. With interest. It would be an investment for you, really. An investment? In exchange for letting me back into their lives. I'll think about it, I told them. I had no intention of thinking about it. The requests escalated over the next few months. Michael needed help with a business opportunity, a friend's startup that just needed some capital. $25,000 would get him in on the ground floor. It's a sure thing, Mom. We could both make money. Sarah needed a new car. Her old one was constantly breaking down. Nothing fancy, just something reliable. 30,000, maybe 35 with taxes and fees. You're always saying you want to help, Mom. This would really help. Jennifer wanted to go back to school, an MBA program that would boost her career. Tuition was $18,000 per semester. Think of it as an investment in your daughter's future. And beyond the money requests, there were the invitations. But they always came with expectations now. Come to Madison's birthday party, Sarah said. Oh, and could you maybe contribute to the party costs? We're doing a big princess theme. Join us for Thanksgiving, Michael offered. Everyone's bringing a dish. Maybe you could make your turkey and that stuffing and the pies. They wanted the old me back, the one who cooked and gave and served and paid for things. But they didn't want the emotional parts. When I tried to tell Jennifer about my loneliness during those years, she cut me off. Mom, let's not dwell on the past. We're moving forward now. Moving forward. Without acknowledging what they'd done. At one dinner, I couldn't help myself. Do you remember that Thanksgiving I spent alone? The one where I set the table for all of you and no one came? Silence fell. Michael cleared his throat. Mom, we've apologized for that time. We were going through a lot. You've never apologized. Yes, we have. Multiple times. When? He couldn't answer. Because they hadn't. Not once. Not ever. Amber jumped in. I think what Michael means is that we've acknowledged we could have handled things better. But you have to understand you were a lot to deal with after Tom died. We had to protect our mental health. Protect their mental health. From their grieving mother. I smiled. You're right. I apologize for bringing it up. The conversation moved on. I sat there finally seeing clearly. They didn't love me. Maybe they had once, but that love had conditions I hadn't met. Now they were back because I had something they wanted. If you're relating to this story, please subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything. That night, lying in bed, I made my decision. I'd been thinking about it for weeks, really, but I'd been too scared to commit. Scared that maybe I was being vindictive, that maybe I was proving them right about me being too emotional. But this wasn't about emotion. This was about dignity. I called Henderson and Associates the next morning. Susan? Hi, it's Barbara Barrett. I need to update my estate planning. Do you have recommendations for attorneys who handle charitable trusts? She did. Within a week, I had an appointment with Martin Chambers, an estate attorney who specialized in philanthropic giving. I told him everything, about my children, about the money, about what I wanted to do. He didn't judge. He just listened and then said, let's make sure your wishes are absolutely clear and legally airtight. We got to work. 3 months later, everything was in place. My entire estate was being transferred into an irrevocable charitable trust. The Literacy Foundation would receive 40% for library programs and children's reading initiatives. The Shelter Alliance would get 30% for the homeless shelter where I'd volunteered. The remaining 30% was divided between 3 smaller charities, an elder abuse prevention organization, a women's shelter, and a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. Not one penny for my children. Martin reviewed the documents with me one final time. Once you sign this, Barbara, it's permanent. You understand that? I understand. And you're certain? There's no obligation to leave anything to your children legally, but this is a significant step. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I signed. He witnessed. It was done. I felt lighter than I had in years. I didn't tell my children immediately. I let another month pass, accepting their invitations, listening to their requests, watching them perform this elaborate show of caring. Then Sarah called with an announcement. Mom, we're planning a family vacation. All of us, Michael and Amber, me and Kevin and Madison, Jennifer and Derek. We want you to come too. We're calling it Family Bonding Time. Where? A cabin in the Poconos. There's this beautiful rental property. It has enough rooms for everyone. That sounds lovely, I said. The rental is a bit expensive, she continued, and I could hear her choosing words carefully. We were thinking that maybe, since you're in a better position now, you might consider covering the cost, As a gift to the family, it would mean so much. How much? $4,000 for the week. But it would be worth it, Mom. We'd all be together, really reconnecting. I'll think about it, I said. I didn't need to think about it. I called her back the next day. I'll pay for the cabin. Her excitement was genuine. She probably thought she'd finally cracked my wallet, that the money would flow freely now. The vacation was planned for late July. As the date approached, my children's attention intensified. More calls, more visits, more Madison time that felt like payment for favors to come. Jennifer came over one afternoon. Mom, Derek, and I have been talking. If anything ever happened to you, God forbid, we want you to know that we'd be honored to handle your estate. To make sure everything is distributed properly, that your wishes are followed. That's thoughtful, I said. But I've already made arrangements. Arrangements? I updated my estate plan a few months ago. Everything's handled. She looked momentarily concerned, but then smiled. Well, that's good. That's responsible. I'm proud of you for being proactive. She assumed, I'm sure, that arrangements meant dividing everything between the three of them. Maybe with some small charitable donations to make me feel good. She had no idea. The week before our cabin trip, Michael stopped by with papers. Mom, I've been working with a financial advisor, that friend I mentioned. He put together this investment portfolio for you. Really solid returns, very low risk. I just need you to sign here authorizing the transfer of funds. I looked at the papers. It was requesting authorization to move $500,000. I'm not interested, I said simply. The cabin weekend arrived. I drove up to the Poconos on Friday afternoon, my car packed with the groceries I'd agreed to bring. Everyone else arrived within the hour. The first evening was pleasant enough. We cooked together, ate on the deck overlooking the lake, watched Madison play. It almost felt like a real family gathering. Almost. Saturday morning, Michael called a family meeting after breakfast. We gathered in the main room. Madison was napping, so it was just the adults. Mom, we wanted to talk to you about something important, Michael started. He looked at his sisters, who nodded encouragingly. The three of us have been discussing your future. We're worried about you living alone, managing everything by yourself. I'm managing fine, I said. For now, Sarah interjected. But you're not getting any younger. What happens in 5 years, 10 years? We think you should consider moving into a retirement community, somewhere with support, activities, people your own age. There's a really nice place near us, Jennifer added, Garden Vista. It's like luxury apartments, but with medical staff on site, meal plans, everything. I waited. There was more coming. Michael continued. The thing is, these places are expensive. But if you sold your house, you'd have money from that plus your settlement. You could live comfortably there, and frankly, it would give all of us peace of mind knowing you're safe. And, Amber added, it would free up some of your capital for other purposes. You could help your kids while you're still alive, see your money do good instead of it just sitting there. There it was. Sell my house, move into managed care, and distribute my money to them. I looked at the 6 faces staring at me expectantly. These were the children I'd raised, fed, clothed, comforted, and loved unconditionally. I have something to tell you, I said calmly. I've already made decisions about my estate. We know you updated things, Jennifer said. That's great, but we should talk about the details. The details are simple. Everything I have is going to charity. The room went silent. Michael laughed nervously. What do you mean, everything? I mean everything. The house, the settlement money, my savings, my possessions. It's all been placed into an irrevocable charitable trust. Libraries, shelters, scholarships. Not a single dollar is going to any of you. Sarah's face paled. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. But we're your children, Jennifer practically shouted. You can't just cut us out. You cut me out first, I said quietly. For 4.5 years, I was too emotional, too needy, too much. You told me to build my own life, so I did. And in that life, I found organizations that actually help people who need it. Kevin stood up. This is insane. We're going to contest this. You can try. My attorney assured me it's airtight. I'm of sound mind, there's no undue influence, and I have every legal right to dispose of my assets as I choose. Derek looked furious. So this whole reconciliation was fake? You were just playing us? I stood up, grabbing my purse. I was giving you a chance to prove you actually wanted a relationship with me, not my money. You failed. I walked out of the cabin, drove home, and never looked back. They tried calling, of course. Angry messages about betrayal and obligation. I blocked all their numbers. I'm 71 now. I still volunteer at the library and the shelter. I've made real friends, people who value me for who I am. And every month I see reports about how my money is helping fund reading programs, provide shelter beds, and send kids to college. My children gave me space. I finally used it well.